Item 10B, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Acumen Industrial Hygiene, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $48,700 for air quality and soils dust testing services for the Crestmoor Neighborhood Reconstruction Project.
I'll do it a second. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. I'm Harry Burrows. I'm the city's project manager for the Crestmoor Reconstruction Project. Item before you tonight is related to some additional dust that the neighborhood has experienced with the construction that's going on up there. Not only the construction of the infrastructure, but also the construction of the homes in the neighborhood. The city has implemented, since the construction has begun, certain dust control measures, and we've been ramping up those dust control measures as the project has continued as well. Those include watering the streets. We're doing a lot of construction, material gets put in the streets, so we water the streets quite often. Additionally, we're putting filter fabric down on all of the bare dirt on all of the homes that are being constructed, asking the contractors of those homes to do that. We're tarping all the material and or watering the material that's being hauled off the site in the trucks. We're making sure that all the spoil piles on both the city construction sites as well as the home sites are covered as well. And we're doing extra sweeping on and watering on the weekends, above and beyond what the contract requirements are for the city's contractor. The residents have expressed concerns related to both the amount of dust and also what potentially is within the dust that they're breathing and that's accumulating on their homes and on their cars. So in response to the concerns that have been raised, the city is proposing to do some additional testing of the air and the dust and the soils that are on the lots that are out there. So San Mateo County did an extensive cleanup of the lots where houses burned down in the aftermath of the fire. And as part of that, the sites were cleared of all debris, and the residual soil was tested for contaminants, hazardous materials. And the results of those tests across the board were that any remaining contaminants were well below any thresholds that were deemed harmful for humans. In spite of that, we're proposing to do this additional testing now, just to alleviate the concerns of the residents and just to verify some of the previous testing. Based upon previous fires that have occurred in California, large-scale residential fires, examples are the Angora fire up in Tahoe and the Cedar fire down in San Diego. There's a list of contaminants or hazardous materials that are prevalent in the aftermath of these fires. They're primarily heavy metals and asbestos are the two primary concerns. So we've sought a proposal from a firm called Acumen Industrial Hygiene, and they've given us a proposal to perform this work. They'll be doing peer review of the work that was previously done by the county, as well as setting up additional testing stations for air and dust gathering, and soil sampling as well. They'll be sampling for those heavy metals. They'll also be looking for asbestos, and they'll also be looking for some compounds that weren't previously tested for as well. So the proposal calls for up to 8 air and dust sampling locations. They're the ones that are shown on red here. These are just aren't exact locations, but it's just representative of how they'll be dispersed throughout the neighborhood. And the green squares represent soil test locations. Again, in 4 to 6 locations, we'll be taking soil samples and testing those samples for contaminants. Time is of the essence to perform this testing, particularly the air testing, as we're getting into the rainy season. And with the moisture in the air, it's a little bit hard to collect the dust because there's not as much of it. So we are proposing that this work begin immediately upon your authorization, and Acumen is standing by ready to perform that work. Additionally, there's been some questions regarding the dust and silt making its way into the storm drain system. And, are there any concerns with that? I guess the answer is twofold. One, we're really trying to minimize any material that makes it into the storm drain system with the SWIP requirements that we have out on the site. In terms of any hazardous materials making its way into the storm drain, obviously the testing that will be performed will determine what, if any, hazardous materials are still out there. And to say that no sediment's going to make its way into the storm drain would probably be an exaggeration. This is construction, but we're minimizing it as much as possible. Our current contractor up there, Shaw, we've got a pretty stringent silt management program in place with them. We make them pump out the storm drains with Vector trucks weekly. They have to clean around the catch basins on a daily basis. So we're trying to minimize whatever goes or potentially goes into the storm drain system. I'll digress here for a second and talk about some additional testing that is being performed here shortly, based upon some concerns that were raised by the City Council previously, as well as some of the residents about the soils around Line 132. PG&E has a proposal into us, and we'll be meeting with them later this week to discuss it further, about testing the soils around Line 132. So we're going to be determining the number of tests that will be performed and the locations that make the most sense, and we'll be sharing those results as soon as they're available to you. That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Through the chair, very quick. You'd already alluded to the steps that are being taken to try to contain any type of flow into the drain. Would you not say, in your professional opinion, that as far as that construction, the neighborhood, and what the city steps are far exceeding what any normal construction would see and does see?
I think particularly in the amount of street sweeping and watering that we're doing, as well as the frequent vectoring, that would be a correct statement.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Irene?
How are you letting the residents know that this is all going to be happening if we pass this tonight? Or how will you, I guess?
Your mic wasn't on, but I think your question was, how are we letting the residents know that this work is yes. going on? Twofold. One, we did post a notice on the rebuildcrestmoor.org website last Friday, notifying them of this potential action that you're going to take here tonight. And if it's approved, then we will be further notifying them, providing them more detail, as well as part of the detail being where these test stations will be, how long they'll be out, and when we expect results back.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions or actions by the council?
Through the chair, I'll introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.